Hi, it's Peter again from Romford Film Festival, and I'm here with the filmmakers of Who Is James Payton. I'm with the director, Oliver Guy Watkins.
Is that you?
No, it's you.
Oh, that's me.
And I'm also with the documentary's subject, James Payton himself.
I'm the subject.
That's you.
The test subject.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me, guys.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So, documentary's playing today in the festival. The first question, obviously, is who is James Payton? And I'm not quite sure which one of you to ask first.
Well, I would say you'd have to watch the documentary to maybe find out. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a good answer. I'll
Yeah.
take that one.
I'm not going to give it away the plot.
We don't want spoilers at this point in time.
No, I will just say that the documentary is about you following James, who is an actor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tell us about first where you first met each other. Let's start there.
Well,
was that on holiday?
It was the set of The Holiday,
Okay.
the Nancy Myers film with Jude Law and
Yep.
Cameron Diaz and some other big Jack Black.
Jack Black,
And we were both working for the special effects department,
Okay.
making fake snow.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
We do.
And
I saw that on
was,
your history and I was like, snow technician.
Snow technician.
Yeah.
Might have to ask about that later.
Yeah, well, it's that's how this love affair began,
Mm.
and that must have been 12 years ago.
That was 2006
Yeah.
we shot that.
Yes, wow, time flies. 15 years ago.
So what was the inspiration? Why did you decide to make this film? What was it that, when did the idea first come?
I've known James a long time,
Mm.
and we've done a lot of projects together, some experimental shorts and some feature a while ago as well. And James had been to a Comic Con maybe 3 years ago, DradeCon I think it was.
Yeah,
in
2019.
Yeah. And he came back from it, and I knew what he was doing, but I knew that he'd been doing these things, but I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
And when he came back, he was so elated, and it was so cool to see him in that kind of frame of mind.
Mm.
And it just got me, it really piqued my interest as to what this other side of James was that I didn't really know, and I wanted to experience that, and it sounded like a interesting idea to document what James was doing, and I think that's the key to the door anyway. That
Yeah.
was the kind of first key.
Yeah.
And then obviously to show the sides of James that I knew as a person that those people probably didn't know as well.
Mm.
So I thought there was a really interesting dynamic there.
So James, you were originally a snow technician, and then were you a snow technician before an actor, or
No, I started acting
both at the same time?
I started acting in '97.
Okay,
And I started with the snow business in 2004 at Charlie and Chocolate Factory.
right. I really want to make a joke about snow business.
Everybody does. Yeah, each time you
Let
do
me
it,
get
you
one. No
business, no snow
Yeah,
business.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
every job.
Ka-ching, yeah.
They've been actually. There are many jokes there, but I will say because it's a good opportunity for us to say it. But they've been very good to us over the years,
Yeah.
and it gave us a position within the film industry where we did get to work with some pretty amazing people. You know, to watch Scorsese work or to watch, Ridley Scott work, and really up close as well. And actually, in the later part of our careers in that side of the film industry, to work directly with some people has been quite inspiring. So you're having good conversations with directors about the looks that they want and really kind of developing things. So there is a good education there.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And the best education is, not just watching movies, obviously that's a great education, but also being involved in the process of making, regardless of what department you want to be in. Just being there and watching and learning is the best place to learn, for sure. And we were really lucky that over the last couple of decades that we've been in those positions where where you can watch and learn, and people come to you saying, "What do you think?" That's quite a nice place to be.
Yeah, it is.
So as an actor, James, you've been in a lot of things, a lot of popular franchises and things like that, Harry Potter, Marvel. So the subject, basically, the documentary is, a lot of it, anyway, the camera follows you around the Comic-Cons kind of things, as we were saying.
Yeah.
How many hours of footage did you shoot, or how many events did you accompany James to you, Oliver?
I'm gonna say there was I'm pretty sure it's about 70 hours worth of footage, 60 to 70 hours worth of footage at the end.
Yeah.
And we probably shot 15 to 20 days over the course of a year, somewhere around that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you even go about editing all those hours of the Comic Cons and things like that into the final?
My partner is an editor, and we have a really good thing. Our cinematographer John and my sound designer Hein and my partner Orly, who is the editor, and we have a really good little group of people now that have a good system. And yeah, it's about process really, and kind of knowing your footage and just watching it over and over again. And there were keys into this film. So there was one scene where a girl cries when she meets James at a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
We knew that had to be at the front of the film because it had to, as a scene that shows how people are kind of enamoured by James. So it shows that he's important to someone, and then it gives us the window into the film to go from there really. So yeah, there were key scenes that we kind of marked out and said, okay, this is what we're going to do, and build the film around that. The timeline is not chronological in any way. Right. But yeah.
So actually, talking about that experience then, when someone comes up to you like that who is so enamoured with the film, especially Harry Potter, I mean, you know, people are so obsessed with and in love with Harry Potter and all the characters. How does that feel for you? Does it make you feel awkward, or do you love the fact that that's the experience they have?
It's a good question. I mean, I shot Order of the Phoenix in 2006. It came out in 2007. I mean, the film for 30 seconds, and yet every day of my life since the movie came out, somebody wants to talk about it. So grateful is because of what it gives, what it's given, and what it continues to give to me. So when people come up and say, "Oh my God, I love you and Alice," or "I loved what you did," and you know, all I did pretty much is look right down the barrel, look at Alice, look back, and then do it lively. But that was something we worked out with David Yates to show not only the love they have for Neville, but also for each other. That sort of tender moment, and for whatever reason, because that's the only time you ever see them in the entire franchise, that it sort of struck a chord with people. So when people come up and are nervous to meet you, or excited to meet you, or cry, or are completely indifferent, whatever it is, then yeah, I'm just grateful that they want to have a conversation. Because to me, it's, well, yeah, I've done that, but did you also? I've also done other things, and I work in the film industry in other areas as well. So I think, yeah, I'm always just happy. I love doing Comic Cons and seeing the people who are the real magic, if you like, the people who watch the movies. Because to me, the entire reason I wanted to get involved in movies was that I wanted to make people feel how I felt when I watched movies, which sort of plays back to my father dying and what happened to me that day, which Oliver captured. So yeah, it's difficult to say it's a dream come true in some respects, because I'm not where I'd like to be in my career, but I in no way can complain. I know a lot of actors, and I have over the last sort of 25 years, who are far more skilled and better than I am, but the world hasn't discovered them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But a part of the world, a very small part of the world, has discovered me, and I appreciate them taking the time out to, and if you can inspire one person to do something to get involved in making movies, or actors, or actors, or whatever, then that's sort of a life well lived, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love it.
So you mentioned some of the scenes where you basically interviewed James, don't you? You talk about your life there. Did you script those conversations, or how did you do that?
So the bookmark scenes were done at the end of the film. So we did the interviews and we did the audition scenes at the end, and they were how I decided to to structure the film around, so to give it breaks. What had become apparent by that point in time from our conversations, James and me talked about what we would talk about with the film, what was on the table and what was not going to be on the table, and the father storyline became the kind of motif around the film.
Mhm.
It became obvious to me that it was one of the main reasons, or one of the trigger probably, for why James became an actor. At the time I was reading a book by Murakami, and what he did in that book was there was a through line where he retold the same story 4 or 5 times throughout the book, and that became the hinges on which the rest of the story played out. So we used the same technique within the film, and we had James telling it to the camera, we had him telling it in the cinema at DradeCon, doing the Q&A, and then a couple of other versions as well. So it became the kind of the hinge really for the storyline.
Yeah, it's an interesting structure because obviously you shot a lot of stuff in different locations, and I mean it could have been. I'm guessing it was a monumental task, but it could have been very difficult to put that into a structure, I'm guessing, and it does really work. It could have been just like a sprawling kind of amalgamation of stuff, but
it's 7 seasons.
Yeah.
We did talk about it being a series at one point, didn't we?
Right,
But again with John, our cinematographer, we work very differently to each other, and that really complements how we work. John documents, and he will sit and watch and study and frame something, and I come in and I mess it up basically, and I fuck with it is how I probably would put it, and I try and create little things to happen, and I try and force certain situations, and I get John to go somewhere that he wouldn't normally go. So those two things really contrast each other and really work well together as a pairing, because then we do have this hours of sprawling footage, but we have some great kind of ways to heighten the drama, or to tell a story within that as well, I think. So I'd like to think that's the case now anyway, but maybe it's just me.
So I was going to ask, what was your biggest challenge working on the documentary?
James.
So, very good. The subject.
Biggest challenge. The biggest challenge was knowing where to take it, because there was so much going on at some points. Like you said, it could have been sprawling for hours, and we had to make a decision to not film certain things at a point. And we had there was some great serendipitous stuff. The Tony Blair casting. We just happened to be there at that point, which could have quite easily been a point we weren't there at the same thing. So, but yeah, I would say it was knowing when to not film.
And certainly initially the biggest challenge for me was ignoring John.
Yeah.
Because you sort of want to do, something funny happens, you just want to do it at the side bit. That was fun. But once after that, I'm quite open and quite comfortable talking about areas of my life. As you said, there are some areas that are off limits. Just because everybody's got to have boundaries, and there are boundaries of things that we don't cover, which is because that's my part. That's my part.
Yeah, of course.
But I didn't. It wasn't a particular challenge because I'm quite open. And I always said to you, make the movie that you want to make. I know you're not going to stitch me up and make me look like the sort that has been Alan Partridge sort of character. even though you could have done.
Yeah.
But I knew that you wouldn't, so I was.
But then the funny thing with that is that a lot of people said that. I remember Kay said that to me at one point as well, and she said it jokingly in the kind of don't do this to my client kind of way at the same point. And I never saw you as that anyway, so I never kind of went to the table with that impression at all.
You could do a cut.
Yeah, we could quite easily, but I never kind of. That's not how I see you. So it was. We went, actually, if anything was a reference, it was Steve Coogan and Alan Partridge. Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon's Michael Winner's The Trip.
Yeah.
And there were some moments with James, with Nick Moran, or with Chris Rankin that were very similar to that. So instead of having two people go on this journey together, we kind of played James off going through different people in that sense. And yeah, that was certainly one of the inspirations going into the edit, definitely.
To James, what's your favourite film that you've worked on? What gave you the biggest pleasure of all the films you've worked on?
It's difficult. It's like asking anyone a favourite song or movie. You know, firstly, it sort of depends on what area. There are, you know, every movie that I've done, I like to think that I've learned something and I've got better. Even if I was bad in a movie, I like to know, gone, oh fuck, that's what I did wrong. You know, we did a movie years ago called Always in the Present. And my character gets talked about quite a lot. There's only in the movie for about 10 minutes.
Right.
But I'm really proud of the performance that I gave in that movie. Nobody's going to see it, and that's okay. But for me, I was really proud of that. Generally, it's sort of the most recent thing that I've done. You know, I'll always be proud of Potter because, as I said, what it continues to give, and what it means to so many people. That's, you know, as a jobbing actor who's from the West Country, who had no family, no in into the film industry, you know, to have moved at least 7 people with my performance. It's incredible. So that's and then to be involved in something like Marvel, but when we did it was, you know, way before it became the sort of huge thing that it is now. To be involved in that, looking back, it's like, oh my god, how the fuck am I involved in this iconic Hollywood movie, in this iconic moment in comic history, you know, because that the first comic book, the first Captain America comic book, as we all know, is him punching out Hitler, which we recreated for the movie. But that was released before the States entered the war, so it's a political thing as well. So that's something to be, you know, not, you know, incredibly proud. And then most recently, obviously, Creation Stories, where Nick and Irvin and Alan trusted me to give this, what's been described as a League of Gentlemen simpering version of Tony Blair, to sort of show how Alan's life, it's all sort of crumbling down at this point, and to get so much sort of recognition in the press from, you know, from what is a, you know, a pretty small role really, is amazing. And but most importantly, to hear from Nick and from Irvin and from Alan and from Dean, the co-writer, how much they liked it, how much they enjoyed the performance, and how great they thought it was. You know, you don't make movies for other people initially. Firstly, you make the movie for yourself and hope people like that. And the same with acting, you hope people like what you're doing in their performance. But I mean, hell, it's always nice to hear that people like it. But I mean, I'm sort of proud of everything. As I said, even the shit stuff I've done. And the stuff hasn't necessarily been shit, but I've been shit in it. But that's that sort of process of learning how to be better and how to, you know, understand the technique and what it is that you're trying to get across. So yeah, I have favourites, but I also don't have regrets, even when I've been bad in things, because those sort of failures, if you like, lead you to success. You know, success is, the path to success is paved with failure, and I hope to continue to fail. Who knows what's next? Who knows?
Great stuff. James, I think we feel like we know a little bit who is James, a bit more about who is James Payton.
Or do you?
Or do we? Yeah. It's all a ruse.
I spent a year trying to find out. Didn't work.
I spent 29 years trying to figure out because I'm 29.
Yeah.
James Oliver, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Pleasure.
very much.